Almost everyone in the world knows what a vampire is, an undead creature that lives forever, drinks blood, bites its victims, and avoids sunlight. Vampires have appeared in books, movies, and television series for more than a century, making it seem as though they have always been part of human culture. But the truth is very different. The legend of the vampire was not born in a single place or at a single moment. It evolved over thousands of years through fears, beliefs, stories, and mysteries that were passed down from generation to generation.
To understand the origins of vampires, we must travel back thousands of years, long before Dracula, long before the Middle Ages, and back to the earliest civilizations. In ancient Mesopotamia, one of the world's first civilizations, people told stories about supernatural beings such as Lilith and Lamashtu. They were described as dangerous creatures of the night that slipped into the homes of sleeping people, drained their life force, and sometimes even drank their blood. At that time, the concept of a vampire did not yet exist, but the idea of a creature feeding on human beings was already taking shape. In ancient Greece, the legend of Lamia emerged. According to mythology, she was a woman who became a monster after suffering a terrible tragedy. She wandered the night, kidnapped children, and drank their blood. In ancient Rome, people feared creatures known as the Strix, mysterious nocturnal birds believed to bring death and feed on the blood of infants. In China, people believed in the Jiangshi, a corpse that rose from the dead to drain the life force of the living. In the Philippines, stories were told about the aswang, a creature that appeared as an ordinary human during the day, but hunted people after sunset. Similar creatures also appeared in the folklore of India, Africa, and South America. Although the details varied from one culture to another, the central idea remained almost identical. A person dies, returns from the grave, and survives by feeding on the living. For centuries, these stories were not seen as entertainment. People believed they were real explanations for the strange events happening around them. At that time, no one understood what caused disease. Bacteria, viruses, and infections had not yet been discovered. When one person died, and only a few days later, family members and neighbors began dying as well, it seemed as though the first victim had returned from the dead to claim more lives. Today, we know these were contagious diseases spreading through communities. But back then, there was no scientific explanation. The appearance of corpses strengthened these beliefs even further. When graves were opened days or weeks after burial, the bodies often looked very different from what people expected. As the skin shrank, the hair and fingernails appeared longer. Gases built up inside the body, causing it to swell, and dark fluids sometimes leaked from the mouth or nose. To people living centuries ago, it looked as though the dead had continued eating and drinking after death. To them, this was proof that the vampire had left the grave during the night and returned before sunrise. In Eastern Europe, this fear became deeply rooted in everyday life. Many villages believed that vampires were not legends, but real threats. Whenever someone was suspected of being a vampire, their grave was opened. If the body appeared too well preserved, people believed their suspicions had been confirmed. To prevent the vampire from rising again, they drove a wooden stake through its heart, cut off its head, burned the body, or placed a large stone inside its mouth so it could never bite another victim. In some regions, the dead were even buried face down, believing that if they tried to dig their way out, they would only dig deeper into the earth instead of reaching the surface. The way people believed someone became a vampire also differed from region to region. Modern movies have taught us that a single bite is enough, but in most ancient legends that was not the case. Many villages believed that anyone who died after being attacked by a vampire would eventually become one. Others believed that the transformation occurred only if the victim drank the vampire's blood. Some cultures believed that people who were not buried according to proper religious rituals, or those who died under a curse, would return as vampires after death. There were even traditions claiming that babies born with teeth or unusual birthmarks were destined to become vampires later in life. In certain regions, people believed that if a black cat jumped over a corpse before burial, the body would rise from the dead. Despite all these differences, almost every vampire legend gave blood a central role. In the ancient world, blood was not viewed simply as a liquid that carried oxygen through the body. It was believed to be the very essence of life. Many civilizations believed that blood carried the soul, memories, and life force of a person. A creature that drank blood was therefore not simply feeding, it was stealing the victim's life itself. This is why many legends include blood rituals, blood oaths, and ceremonies in which blood symbolized the transition from an ordinary human life to an immortal existence. The weaknesses associated with vampires also originated from ancient beliefs. Garlic had been used as a medicinal plant for thousands of years and was believed to possess the power to ward off evil spirits. The cross became a weapon against vampires only in regions where Christianity was the dominant religion. In other cultures, people relied instead on charms, prayers, or sacred objects unique to their own beliefs. The idea that vampires are destroyed by sunlight did not exist in most ancient legends. In early stories, vampires simply preferred the darkness. It was only during the 20th century, largely because of films, that sunlight became the deadly weakness we recognize today. The connection between vampires and bats also appeared relatively late. When European explorers reached South America and discovered real vampire bats that fed on the blood of animals, the association became almost inevitable. Bats were creatures of the night, flew silently, and lived in dark caves. These characteristics made them the perfect symbol of the vampire, and from that point forward, the two became almost inseparable in literature and cinema. The man who shaped the modern image of the vampire was the Irish author Bram Stoker. In 1897, he published Dracula, combining numerous vampire legends from Eastern Europe with his own original ideas. Instead of portraying a decaying corpse rising from the grave, he created a mysterious, charismatic, intelligent, and terrifying nobleman. This character captivated the world and completely transformed the way we imagine vampires. The castle, the flowing cape, the sharp fangs, the hypnotic gaze, and eternal life all became defining features of the vampire thanks to this novel. More than a century has passed since then, yet the legend of the vampire continues to evolve. Every generation has added new abilities, new weaknesses, and new interpretations. Despite all these changes, the foundation has remained remarkably similar to what first emerged thousands of years ago: the fear of death, the inability to explain mysterious events, and the hope that stories could make sense of the unknown. Perhaps vampires never truly existed. Perhaps every legend was born from disease, fear, and superstition. Yet the fact that remarkably similar stories appeared across different civilizations for thousands of years is one of the reasons vampires continue to fascinate us today. No matter how much science advances, there will always be a small place reserved for imagination, and there, in the darkness between history and legend, vampires continue to live.